Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're gonna go through how to make collard greens, because in the South, we eat collard greens year round. But New Year's is coming up, and so a lot of people eat collard greens as a New Year's tradition. So sit back, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive right in. So on the counter today, we have a pretty simple list of ingredients, and it's probably gonna be about what you would expect. So let's start with the fun stuff. Here I have one package of bacon. I use the 16-ounce package. You can use 12 ounces if you'd like. I have 3 bundles, or about 3 pounds of collard greens. These are not cleaned yet, but I have our sink full of cold water after it's been scrubbed out. So we should be able to clean those up there. I have 3 tablespoons of apricot jam. You can use whatever jam you would like. I prefer something lighter in color, like an orange, peach, or in this case, apricot, because it's what I had. 3 ounces of apple cider vinegar. I have my trusty jar of bacon fat here, and I'm gonna be using about 3 tablespoons out of that. If you don't have a jar of bacon fat in your refrigerator, that's a whole nother discussion, but you can go ahead and use canola oil or whatever oil you would like. I have 2 quarts of chicken stock, 1 large sweet onion, and I'm gonna use Crystal hot sauce to taste. Crystal hot sauce is my preference. You can use whatever creamy southern hot sauce you would like as well. So this is all we're gonna need aside from kosher salt, which we'll use to taste later on. So let's get started. We're gonna get started by cleaning our collard greens. This is a pretty simple process. I just like to pull out the stems, remove any parts that don't look good, have weird discolorations, or anything frankly that you just don't feel real good about. Then we're gonna put these right into the cold water, shake them around a little bit and let them sit for a while, and let any dirt that's in there break loose. Now we let these hang out for a little while we get the rest of the stuff ready to go. Let me get a few of these things out of the way, and now we're just gonna cut the bacon. As you see here, I literally just pulled this straight out of the package, and the easiest way to do this, in my opinion, is just to run straight down the line and cut these in thin strips. Next, we're gonna take care of cutting our onions and garlic. I'm gonna cut the onion into thin strips and cut the garlic into thin slices. So here's our onion, and it's cut into thin petally strips like so. We're just gonna break this apart once we're ready to use it. And here's our garlic. It's cut into thin discs as well. These don't have to be perfect, as long as they're close. So now we're gonna put a large pot that we have a lid for on medium-low heat. Go ahead and add in the extra fat, and we're gonna put the bacon right in there with it and let everything start cooking down. This process does take quite a while, but it's gonna be worth it. Don't get in a hurry and turn your heat up. While your bacon's crisping up, this is a great chance to go back and get your collard greens. I like to pull mine right out of the water, shake as much off as you can, and then go ahead and just cut them into strips. There doesn't have to be anything precise about this. You just don't want massive pieces of collard greens, and you don't want them cut too fine either. Now that our collards are cut, we're back over to our bacon. As you can see, it's starting to look kind of foamy. There's a bunch of small bubbles. As this starts to occur, you want to start keeping a closer eye on this, because whereas it's taken quite a while at this point, now it should start speeding up. We're getting almost to the end. It's important to stir this to make sure it cooks nice and even. Once your bacon is nice and brown, it's starting to look like it's going to be nice and crispy, we're going to go ahead and use a slotted spoon and remove all the bacon and set this aside. Once all the bacon's out and set aside, I'm going to go ahead and add in the onion. Just be careful not to splash yourself with the hot grease. Once you put the onion in, go ahead and break it apart, and then we're going to use the onion to scrape the brown stuff off the bottom of the pot. Once the onion's starting to cook and all broken apart, we're gonna go ahead and let this cook until the onion starts to soften up and become translucent. Again, you wanna keep these moving so they cook nice and even, but this will take several minutes. Now, as you can see, our onions are starting to get pretty translucent down there. They're not fully cooked, but we're gonna go ahead and add in the garlic. Once you throw your garlic in, keep an eye on your garlic because you certainly don't want anything to burn, and your garlic will be one of the first things to burn, if anything. So just stir this in, keep an eye on it, and this step will not take long at all. Now that our garlic has cooked until translucent, we're gonna go ahead and add in the chicken stock. Once you add in the chicken stock, you can go ahead and add in the vinegar and the apricot jam. I'm gonna give these a quick stir to get everything incorporated. You can also go ahead and add in your hot sauce. I didn't put an amount of hot sauce on the recipe because hot sauce is completely subject. Personally, I'm gonna go ahead and put about 2 ounces of hot sauce. Depending on how spicy you like your greens, you can add a little bit or a lot of it, whatever's up to you. Also, remember that you can always add more later on, but you can't take it out, so use sparingly until you get a feel for it. Now we're gonna let this come to a boil and then cook for about 10 minutes.
11 minutes later.
Now that this has came to a simmer and sat here for 10 minutes, it's really started to cook together. Everything in here should be fully cooked at this point, and now we can start to gauge what the broth tastes like. This is where you go ahead and taste it, and then decide if you need to adjust salt or hot sauce. Personally, I'm gonna go ahead and add a healthy pinch of kosher salt, and now we're ready to go ahead and add in the greens. I'm gonna take all of my greens and just place them right over into here. So as you notice, your greens do not go quite down into your liquid. So let them sit here for just a second, and then we're just gonna churn these greens, and then everything's gonna start to get smaller. And that's one reason we don't go with a whole lot of liquid whenever I cook these, is because I don't want a big pot of liquid with a little bit of greens in it. I want rich, hearty, flavorful greens. And as you can see here, once I've turned these, they're pretty well fully submerged. Not quite, but here in a few minutes they will be. So I'm gonna let these simmer for about 30 minutes, and I'm gonna keep stirring them every once in a while. That way they cook nice and even and fully submerged soon. All right, so our greens have simmered for about 30 minutes now, and as you can see, the color changes occur. They all are starting to get that color that you would expect with braised greens. So now I'm gonna go ahead and turn the heat off and put the lid on and let these sit for about 15 minutes.
One eternity later.
We're back, and it's been 15 minutes, and we're gonna go ahead and check out our final product. As you can see here, there is liquid that's formed all the way up to the top of the greens. So as we mentioned that it might not look like enough liquid earlier, it definitely is, and that gives us a chance to leave this nice, beautiful broth that we have cooked these greens in, as opposed to a bunch of water like a lot of people do. So now comes the important part. Let's give it a taste test. With the taste test, I'm also keeping in mind the texture because I don't want the greens to be too firm, but I also don't want them to be super soft. And I must say, these are really good. They're slightly sweet, slightly spicy, slightly acidic, slightly salty. These are fantastic. Keep in mind also that we are going to be adding the bacon back to the top of these greens. So if it needs just a touch of salt, hesitate. Keep that in mind, because this is going to be crispy and salty as well. Well, that wraps us up on how to make collard greens, the Southern classic and New Year's Eve tradition. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to subscribe. We certainly appreciate it. Have a great day.